Welcome into another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I'm looking at some Dynasty sells. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. So, Tyreek Hill, as promised, was going to be the first player on this video. I don't think I've talked about him too much on the channel this offseason. I discussed it a little bit as it related to the Jonnu Smith trade on Monday. But Hill has had kind of a negative offseason. He was going to be traded, then he wasn't. There was another legal issue. Tired of talking about that. But none of that's really why he's a dynasty sell. So last year in 17 games, 81 catches, 959 yards, 6 touchdowns, 123 targets, 4.8 catches, and 56.4 yards a game. It was his worst season since his rookie year. He almost cut his 2023 production in half. And he did struggle both with and without Tua on the field. He broke 100 yards just 3 times. He averaged 12.8 PPR points a game, 31st among wide receivers. So he was bad, flat out bad. Now, let's take a look at why I have Tyreek Hill as the dynasty sell. The advanced stats were bad. He averaged 1.92 yards per route run, 38th among wide receivers. It's not great, and it's a massive drop-off from previous years. And then even when you could say, well, he ran a lot of routes, but the team didn't pass. However, even when the team did pass, he wasn't very good. He averaged 1.62 yards per team pass attempt, 44th among wide receivers. So it didn't work. Again, you could blame some of it on the Dolphins season, but not all of it. Not all of it. He was worse across the board in 2024. Now, why am I doing this video now? Great question. Jonnu Smith was just traded, which gives you a sell window. I hear a lot of people saying, well, now, because Jonnu Smith was traded, the other targets on the team will get more targets and they will be really good in 2025. I'm not so sure about that. I didn't really move Hill up in my rankings. I still think, as before, that Hill is the nominal wide receiver 1 on the Dolphins. But I'm not moving him up because a tertiary option was dumped. I don't think that really affects Hill all that much. Targets are earned. Hill did a bad job of earning them in 2024. I don't think Jonnu Smith being traded is going to change that. So I think he'll be fine, but I don't think you're going to get what you want from Hill. And he turned 31 in March. I've said this a lot. He's older. The advanced and traditional stats show that he's in decline. Most non-Hall of Fame wide receivers are done at 32. They're just done. They're done, finished, over. The ones who aren't are the elite route runners. If you want to bet on one this year, bet on Devontae Adams, not Tyreek Hill. Typically, at 32, they're finished. Even the really good ones. Julio Jones, you can go on and on and on. They're outliers. They play like outliers, and they produce like outliers. But just because you're an outlier doesn't mean you're an age outlier. And I worry that Tyreek Hill is not an age outlier. Might have been a talent outlier, but not an age outlier, because that's not predictable. It's hard to predict. And the biggest sign of not being an age outlier is showing signs of decline, which I showed you all of the stats and advanced stats that showed you that Tyreek Hill was in decline at 30 years old last year. Now, how do you get rid of Tyreek Hill? So July 1st was a big day. It's the day that I published my initial redraft ranks. They're available on the Patreon. But other platforms, the Fantasy Footballers, a lot of fantasy people publish their redraft ranks. A lot of people publish that on July 1st. That's a very common date. So as we move into redraft, you're going to see Tyreek Hill, not by me, but by some people, ranked as a redraft wide receiver 1. And that might open up the sell window for Tyreek Hill. People might be interested in buying him. Now, you could do this one. Sell Tyreek Hill in a second for 27 first and 12-team Superflex. Okay, that's probably about the least I would accept. The next, Tyreek Hill for Mike Evans in 27 second. Those two are very similar bets for me. Why not take the extra second? I have almost no difference between Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans. So take the second. That's an easy one. And then the last one, it's getting rid of 3 players I can't stand: Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, and Brandon Ayuk for a 26 first and 27 first. I think in a year, there's no chance you're going to regret this, right? I mean, if you're rebuilding, you're doing this trade, you're not going to regret doing this. And you could be really, really thankful that you did this. So these are some ways you can move off of Tyreek Hill. There were a lot of other trades, but those were just a few suggestions. Now, the next player, I'm not going to take as long talking about him, DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift is a bad running back. He is bad. He has always been bad. And I think that this is it. This is your final sell window you will ever get for DeAndre Swift. In 17 games last year, 253 carries, 959 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3.8 yards a carry, and 42 catches for 386 yards. He offered empty volume and nothing else. He is a bad runner, not below average, not okay, bad. He is bad. He has always been bad. As a pass catcher, he's fine. But as a runner, not good. Now, he averaged 12.6 PPR points a game, 21st among running backs. Now, that sounds good, but he was almost 1.5 points below the RB20. He was closer to like the RB30 than he was to the RB20. This was not a valuable player. There were 20 valuable running backs in a points per game basis last year. He was the first not valuable running back. Now, why do I have him as a dynasty sell? The advanced stats, like I told you, are bad. Now, last year, he averaged 1.8 yards per contact, yards after contact per attempt in 2024. It's a really good metric of which running backs are actually adding something. Much better than yards per carry. Now, 1.8 is bad. It was 35th among 42 qualifying running backs. That's bad. Luckily, it was Swift's best ever mark. So in his best year, he was bad. He was terrible. And he is and always has been bad. It's the funny thing about DeAndre Swift. He's always been a bad runner. Never. You would have thought he would have developed into it. He never has. And it's a sad thing because he is decent as a pass catcher, but as a runner, he's terrible. And in 2022, he was also terrible. Ben Johnson, the current head coach of the Bears, saw DeAndre Swift as the OC for the Lions. He had an opportunity. This was Swift in his prime at 23 years old in year 3. He benched him, gave him 99 carries, 48 catches was good. He benched Swift for Jamal Williams, who was horrible efficiency-wise in every way. Swift averaged 5.5 yards a carry. That sounds really good, but only 1.7 yards after contact. Again, he did nothing with the carries he was given. It's only because of the scheme that he had those yards per carry. It was the same on the Eagles. He did nothing with the carries he was given. He seemed good at a glance, but was not actually good. Johnson put him in a receiving role where he was decent. He was decent. He performed in that role, but as a runner, it's not good. And we do this every year. There's always these running backs who are bad running backs, but Mike Davis is the legendary one. Well, there's opportunity. So, yeah, he's got to succeed. It doesn't work that way. We tell ourselves this story every year, and we're always wrong. And then we just sign up next year and do it again. And I'm not doing it. This is a player who has always been bad. And unlike Joe Mixon, who, at least had some years where he was good and consistently got the workload, Swift was benched by this coaching staff. This head coach benched him and hated him. And I don't see why we think that's not going to happen again. So to get rid of DeAndre Swift, there are many ways to do that. I mean, there were so many trades. I was on the other side of basically every trade in the Dynasty Daddy trade database. There was no trade in which I wanted DeAndre Swift. This one, get rid of DeAndre Swift and Calvin Ridley, who I'm not so high on either, for a 26 first. I would do that. That's easy to take the 26 first there, especially in a super flex. DeAndre Swift straight up for a 27 first. Go ahead. Go ahead and do that. I mean, I love that. And then if you're competing and you want to get another competing asset, DeAndre Swift in a 4th for Mike Evans, you're going to be able to start Mike Evans in fantasy this year. I don't think you're going to be able to start DeAndre Swift this year. I don't think so. I think DeAndre Swift is going to be, I don't even know, like last year's Zamir White. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. So I have no interest in DeAndre Swift. I would do this trade even though I'm obviously not that interested in Mike Evans. So that should tell you how I feel about DeAndre Swift. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. I'm offering a 50% discount off your first month at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. Go to patreon.com/fantasyadvice and check out this link and type in this code to get 50% off your first month. You can get all my rankings, access to Discord, write-ups, Patreon-only videos, direct message fantasy advice, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos. Tiers begin at just $5 a month, $250 with a discount. If you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the YouTube channel. They're under Patreon promos on the homepage. I do get a lot of feedback that people are tired of hearing about the Patreon. I will say I have a lot of content that I'm really passionate about doing. But on this YouTube channel, the only thing that succeeds are these Dynasty videos. I'm very limited in the content I can do here. I have so much more to offer. And that's why I keep plugging it, because I do rankings. I do interactions every day, article type things with my write-ups, Patreon only videos as well, talking about Dynasty strategy, direct message fantasy advice. I'm helping you every day. I just published my redraft ranks yesterday. So there's all of this extra stuff that it is not, it's more than what I have on here. So I have a lot more to offer, and I believe in it. And I'm not going to stop plugging the Patreon, because at the end of the day, that is so much more than just a 20-minute video. And I'm never going to be able to encapsulate my entire, mission as a content creator, all my fantasy football knowledge in a 20-minute video done 3 times a week. I'm not going to be able to do everything I want to do in an hour per week. That's not possible. And that's why I have the Patreon. That's why I keep talking about it. I'm not going to stop talking about it. And, I believe in it. And it sucks that, I get a lot of crap for that. I get it. I get that, people want everything to be for free. I understand that. I get it. But, I just can't offer all of what I do for free. I already do 3 free videos a week. I can't just give everything away for free. That wouldn't make any sense for me. So if you like what I'm doing, if you want to hear more from me, if you're interested in redraft, start sit, all of that, go sign up at patreon.com/fantasy advice. Use the code TylerYT50 for 50% off your first month. I promise you won't regret it. And again, I only talk about it this much because I believe in it. And I hope that passion counts for something. I hope that it comes across. And I hope that, it brings in more signups, because I love interacting with people. And I know it doesn't seem that way sometimes, but I really do. And that's why I started the Patreon, because that was my passion and that's what I wanted to do. So again, I hope more people sign up. With that said, I'll get into my final Dynasty sell. So my final Dynasty sell for today, TJ Hockenson, a bit different from Swift. I do think he's a good real life tight end. He's valuable to Vikings, but I have a lot of questions. And we saw that in 2024. He came back from the severe knee injury, and in 10 games, he had 41 catches, 455 yards, 62 targets, 4.1 catches, and 45.5 yards a game. 0 touchdowns hurt him. Of course, I think he's going to have a little bit of positive touchdown regression, but his per game averages were down, and he averages 8.7 PPR points a game, 16th among tight ends. Now, I do think he's going to be better than that in 2025, but I just feel like for Dynasty, he's kind of a player I'm not super excited by. And why is that? Turns 28 tomorrow. Again, not old for a tight end, but it is a little old if we're expecting, a lot of value out of him. Like, he has to really produce at a high level, difference-making level, to hold his value. And I am a little concerned. He's old enough that we can't look at, well, in the future, the situation might be different. It's too late for that. We have to look at the situation now. He's old enough that the situation now is what matters. And in order to be a high-end fantasy asset, you can't be the 3. Like, you cannot be the clear third option by a lot in the offense and be high end. That's not possible. You have to be at least the 2B. I mean, we saw that a little bit with Sam Laporta last year. He was the 2B and he was still not super high end, but he was still good. If you have two wide receivers way ahead of you, you're not going to be a high end fantasy asset. And that's with JJ McCarthy, who we don't know anything about. He could be good. He may not be good. And I don't know, is there any way that Hockenson is going to be more relevant than Jordan Addison? I doubt it. Jordan Addison's a really good wide receiver. And wide receivers are better than tight ends. And at receiving in general. And we've seen a little bit of this with Hockenson in the past. He was only really a difference maker during his time on the Vikings before the injury. He was really, really good. He was elite during that period of time. But before that, he averaged 4 catches and 44 yards a game during his 4 seasons on the Lions. He was good. I mean, people wanted TJ Hockenson on their team, whatever. This is almost identical to his 2024 numbers. And that's my issue. I'm nervous. I'm nervous because this is a player who was an elite for a little over a season of his 6-year career. The rest of the time, he was good, but not amazing. And do we get back there? The injury was very severe. He missed a lot of time. Do we get back to what it was before? Or is he just good now? Very valuable for the Vikings, but for our purposes, a little overvalued. And part of it is, again, people are doing their redraft ranks. Hockenson for most people is tight end 5. Bowers, McBride, Kittle, and Laporta are usually the top 4. And Hockenson for a lot of people is 5. And they see tight end 5 and they're like, oh, that's really good. But it's not that good. That's not a difference maker. I don't have Hockenson ranked in my redraft ranks as a difference maker, as someone who's going to win your league for you. I don't see him that way. And that means that it might be time to look at moving on. So the first one, 26 first plus Kyle Pitts, a 1-point tight end premium. Now it's the 26 first I want here, not Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a throw-in. But in 1-point tight end premium, Kyle Pitts does have some value. But it's the 26 first I want. I'm not sure, even in a 1-point tight end premium, that we're at the point where Hockenson is worth the 26 first anymore. The second one, you could tear down to David Njoku and add a 26 second. That one is like just okay. There's not a lot of trades with TJ Hockenson because he's a tight end and it's hard to move tight ends. But I did see this last one. TJ Hockenson and 301 for Garrett Wilson in a 0.5 tight end premium. I take Garrett Wilson there without a second thought. Sometimes tight ends are overvalued in tight end premium leagues. This is a scenario for that. I'd look to try to do something like that. I didn't see this in the trade database at all, but if you could use TJ Hockenson to tier down to Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren, that's not down for me, that's up. So if you could get those guys plus somehow for TJ Hockenson, I would absolutely do it, especially as we get closer to the season and redraft brains take over. But overall, he's a player I just like to move, I think, before the season starts. So I talked about the Jonnu Smith trade on Monday. Now, the Dolphins decide to trade for Darren Waller. I didn't even know that the Giants still held Darren Waller's rights. But regardless, there was a 6th, 7th conditional pick swap. Conditional means they're not relying on Waller. The 1-year deal he got was worth up to $5 million, which means that not all of that is guaranteed. My guess is almost none of it is guaranteed. It's incentive laden, relying on him, actually holding up and producing, which I find hard to believe. I don't get it. I mean, there are people on X who said absolutely insane things about Darren Waller, whose last good year was in 2020. I mean, this is ridiculous. I have no interest in Darren Waller. I heard on a podcast, a more reasonable take, they were arguing one person had him at tight end 33, another at tight end 40 for redraft. That is the correct range. Those people had the correct take. They were correct. These people who are saying that Darren Waller is relevant have no idea what they're talking about. In deep dynasty tight end premium leagues, sure, he's worth a little bid, but I saw him go for 50, 60% of the fab budget. I have no interest in doing that. He's not even going to be the best waiver pickup, I think, of the offseason. I bet there's going to be some sleepers and rookies in camp that I'd want a lot more than him. So, yeah, forget it. I have zero interest. So let someone else waste their time. Remember, this is a player, Darren Waller, who quit on his team, who didn't play and retired because he didn't feel like blocking, and then is now back in the NFL because his rap career, which he wasn't very good at, didn't work out. This is the player that at 33, we think is going to be valuable. These crazy people have no idea what they're talking about. So, whatever. He has no actual value. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'll do a couple of Patreon questions, then I'll wrap up the show. At what point age do we start to consider the elite running quarterbacks as candidates to become only pocket quarterbacks? We haven't actually had this happen in a while where a running quarterback who was like real life good continued to age and play until, they were older. This has not happened like recently. So I do think they're going to obviously run less, but like Lamar is not worth $60 million a year if he's a pocket quarterback. So I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I think that as long as Lamar is a quarterback, he will be running. I wonder if that's going to be less effective. As for Josh Allen, I mean, kind of the same. I feel like Josh Allen running is important. So I haven't really thought about this, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not thinking about it yet. Maybe into their early 30s, but not yet. I'm not thinking about this yet. It's a good question, though. It's something to think about as these guys age. We haven't really had that recently because most of the quarterbacks aging out are still from the old era, the pocket quarterback era. So now we're getting a new generation of quarterbacks aging, and it's definitely going to be something to consider. So something to look at. It's a good question. What year two running backs are your highest breakout candidates heading into this year? Unfortunately, there aren't any. I mean, the only year 2024 running back who was actually good was Bucky Irving. And I think Bucky Irving would be someone that you would say already broke out, right? Bucky Irving is not a breakout candidate. He already broke out. He already was a league winner last year. So if he doesn't count, then my next highest like redraft running back from last year is Tyrone Tracy, and he's not even in the top 30. So yeah, I'm not looking at it that way, really, or chasing this group of players really at all. The one that I do have an eye on is Trey Benson, but that requires James Conner to be hurt. James Conner is not going to be benched for Trey Benson in 2025. I'm not projecting that. It would require James Conner to be injured. And while an injury might happen, I don't think we can predict that an injury will happen. So sadly, the 2024 running back class, rookie running back class, that is not one that I'm like chasing players to break out, to be honest with you. Not my favorite group of players to target. Now, if you like the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. We've got Dynasty and other fantasy football content year-round. Just dropped the redraft ranks. And of course, we'll do start sit in season. 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. You can sign up in the top right corner at patreon.com/fantasy advice. You can click that link. Every sign up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all